Let's get right into it. Number 10. The empathy black hole. Imagine, for a moment, that you're watching a sad movie. Maybe a dog dies, or a beloved character makes a noble sacrifice. Your eyes well up, your throat tightens, and you feel that familiar ache in your chest. That's empathy, baby. It's your brain's way of saying, hey, I get it. That sucks. Now imagine someone watching the exact same scene, but instead of tears, they're just bored. Or worse, they're actively trying to figure out how the special effects were done. That, my friends, is a glimpse into the mind of a killer, or at least, one of the most baffling aspects science still can't quite wrap its head around: the empathy black hole. Neuroscience has given us some clues, sure. We've seen brain scans that show a decreased connectivity between the amygdala, that's your brain's alarm bell for negative stimuli and fear, and the prefrontal cortex, which is supposed to interpret those alarms into, actual feelings. So, when a normal person sees suffering, their amygdala screams, and the prefrontal cortex goes, oh no, that's bad. But in some killers, it's like the amygdala screams into a void. The signal just doesn't make it to the feeling department. It's like having a smoke detector that goes off, but the fire department's phone line is disconnected. No guilt, no remorse, just a shrug emoji in neuron form. But here's the kicker: this explains the lack of feeling, not the drive to inflict pain. It's one thing to not care, it's another entirely to actively seek out and enjoy causing suffering. Science can tell us the wires are crossed, but it can't quite explain why some people then decide to build a whole new, horrifying circuit board dedicated to cruelty. Basically, their brain is less a compassionate co-pilot and more a detached, morbid observer, occasionally nudging the steering wheel towards chaos. Number 9. The charm switch. Ever met someone who was just too good to be true? Flawlessly charismatic, effortlessly engaging, like they walked straight out of a self-help book on how to win friends and influence people. Now, imagine that same person behind closed doors is meticulously planning something truly horrific. This isn't some B-movie plot twist, it's the unsettling reality of the charm switch, the ability of many killers to appear utterly normal, even captivating, while harboring the darkest intentions. Science, bless its logical heart, struggles with this duality. We're not talking about dissociative identity disorder here, where multiple personalities are genuinely unaware of each other. Oh no, these folks are acutely aware. They're just really, really good at playing the part. Think Ted Bundy, handsome, intelligent, a law student even, who could charm his victims right into his car before unleashing unspeakable horrors. The question isn't if they can do it, but how they maintain such a convincing facade without their internal monstrousness bleeding through. Is it a hyper-developed social intelligence, a perverse form of emotional mimicry? Are they just incredibly skilled actors, constantly performing for an audience of unsuspecting victims? It's like their brain has a separate, highly polished social operating system running alongside a hidden, malevolent one, and they can toggle between them with chilling precision. They don't just lack empathy, they weaponize its absence, using your trust and goodwill as bait. It's a masterclass in psychological camouflage, and we're still trying to figure out the exact mechanics of that terrifying toggle switch. Number 8. The rejection murder link. Ever been ghosted? Left on read? Had your brilliant idea shot down in a meeting? It stings, right? For most of us, it leads to a temporary sulk, maybe a pint of ice cream, and eventually moving on. But for some, that feeling of rejection, especially from early childhood, doesn't just sting, it festers, mutates, and eventually blossoms into a full-blown homicidal rage. Science has observed this pattern. Many serial killers were abandoned or abused as children, leading to a morbid fear of rejection. The theory goes that they become so terrified of being hurt again that they preemptively destroy the very people they desire or covet. It's a twisted, dark logic. If I eliminate you before you can reject me, I control the narrative. I win. You can't abandon me if you're well gone. But here's where science scratches its head and wonders, wait, what? Millions of people experience childhood trauma, abuse, and abandonment. The world is unfortunately full of folks who've been dealt a truly rotten hand. Yet, the vast majority of them don't go on to become serial murderers. They become therapists, artists, activists, or just regular, slightly more anxious than average adults. So, what's the missing ingredient? What is it about some brains, some psyches, that takes the universal human pain of rejection and transmutes it into a compulsion to kill? Is it a genetic predisposition that lights up under stress? A specific neurological wiring that misfires when faced with emotional pain? Or is it a cocktail of environmental factors that creates a perfect storm of pathology? We know the link exists, but the precise mechanism, the exact moment where a broken heart turns into a murderous intent, remains stubbornly elusive. It's like trying to find a single, specific snowflake in an avalanche that explains why the whole mountain just slid. Number 7. Beyond good and evil. Remember being a kid and getting caught with your hand in the cookie jar? That immediate flush of guilt, the frantic excuses, the sudden overwhelming urge to disappear? That's your social conscience kicking in, a finely tuned internal compass that tells you when you've veered off the path of acceptable behavior. It's what stops most of us from, say, stealing a car, or ending another human life. But then you have individuals like Richard Ramirez, the infamous Night Stalker, who, when confronted with his heinous crimes, famously declared, "You don't understand me. You are not expected to. You are not capable of it. I am beyond your experience. I am beyond good and evil. I don't believe in the hypocritical, moralistic dogma of this so-called civilized society." And just like that, he dropped the mic on conventional morality. This isn't just a defiant statement, it's a chilling insight into a mind that genuinely seems to operate outside the very framework of right and wrong that governs human society. For these killers, the rules simply don't apply. They don't just ignore their conscience. It seems they don't have one, at least not in the way we understand it. We learn morality from parents, teachers, peers, society at large. It's a complex tapestry of learned behaviors and inherent social instincts. But for some, that tapestry is either never woven, or it's systematically unraveled thread by thread. Why? Is it a complete absence of the neural pathways associated with moral reasoning? A profound psychological detachment cultivated over years? Or is it a deliberate, intellectual rejection of societal norms, a philosophical stance taken to its most extreme and horrifying conclusion? Science can point to areas of the brain involved in moral decision-making, but it struggles to explain how some individuals can seemingly bypass or completely dismantle this fundamental human construct. It's as if they've installed their own custom operating system, one where the concepts of good and evil were simply deleted from the source code, leaving them free to write their own, terrifying programs. Number 6. The thrill of the kill. Most people, when faced with the idea of taking a life, experience a profound sense of dread, revulsion, or at the very least, extreme reluctance. It's a fundamental human taboo, etched into our collective psyche. But then there are those for whom the act of murder isn't just a means to an end, or a regrettable necessity, but the end itself. They derive immense, almost indescribable satisfaction from the act of killing. We're talking about the thrill of the kill, a concept that leaves science scratching its head and wondering, seriously? That? Unlike a one-time murderer who might kill in a fit of passion, for self-defense, or to conceal another crime, the serial killer often finds the gratification in the process itself. It's not about the money or the revenge, or even the power in a purely logical sense. It's the rush, the ultimate high, the perverse fulfillment that comes from extinguishing another human being. What kind of twisted neurological reward system is at play here? Is it a dopamine dump so intense it eclipses all other sensations? Is it the ultimate expression of control for someone who feels utterly powerless in their everyday life? Or is it something far more primal, a dark echo of ancient predatory instincts that have gone horribly, catastrophically wrong in the modern brain? We can observe the behavior, we can hear their chilling confessions of exhilaration, but pinpointing the exact neurochemical dance or psychological void that makes murder the ultimate pleasure remains a terrifying enigma. It's like trying to explain why someone loves cilantro when to you, it tastes like soap. Except, with significantly higher stakes and a lot more blood. Number 5. The shifting sands of motive. If you've ever tried to plan a road trip with a group of indecisive friends, you know how frustrating it can be when the destination keeps changing. Now imagine that, but the destination is murder, and the driver is a serial killer whose motives are as stable as a house of cards in a hurricane. That's the perplexing reality of the shifting sands of motive, a phenomenon that makes profiling and understanding these individuals a nightmare for forensic psychologists and law enforcement alike. You'd think a killer would have a clear, consistent reason for their horrific actions, right? Something neat and tidy for the case file. Nope. Science has observed that a serial killer's motives can evolve not just across a series of murders, but sometimes even within a single murder. They might start with a desire for power, then midway through, it morphs into sexual gratification, and by the end, it's pure, unadulterated anger. It's like their internal compass is constantly spinning, recalibrating its evil coordinates on the fly. What causes this terrifying fluidity? Is it a desperate search for a feeling they can't quite pinpoint, a void they're trying to fill with ever-changing acts of violence? Is it a reflection of their own chaotic internal world, where emotional states are fleeting and contradictory? Or is it simply a perverse form of experimentation, where they're testing the boundaries of their own depravity, seeing what new horrors they can unlock? This lack of a fixed, discernible motive isn't just inconvenient for investigators, it's a profound mystery about the very nature of human evil. It suggests a mind so untethered from conventional reasoning that even its own dark desires are a moving target, leaving us to wonder if there's any method to the madness, or just pure, unadulterated, unpredictable chaos.
Number 4. The conscious choice to kill.
Imagine you're standing at a crossroads. One path leads to a quiet evening with Netflix and a bowl of questionable popcorn.
The other?
Well, let's just say it involves a significant amount of premeditated mayhem.
For most of us, the choice is obvious. The popcorn wins, every single time.
But for many serial killers, that second path isn't just an option, it's a deliberate, often meticulously planned destination. And this is where science often throws its hands up in exasperation. We can talk about childhood trauma, brain anomalies, and personality disorders until the cows come home, but at some point, many of these individuals make a conscious, rational decision to commit unspeakable acts. This isn't about a psychotic break where reality is shattered, or a momentary lapse of judgment. This is about a calculated, often cold-blooded choice.
They want to kill. They need to kill.
And they actively pursue that desire. What is the genesis of such a profound and destructive will? Is it a perverse form of self-actualization, where their true self is only expressed through violence? Is it a desperate attempt to exert control in a world where they feel utterly powerless, a twisted form of agency? We can map the brain, analyze their upbringing, and dissect their psychological profiles, but the leap from predisposition to deliberate action remains a chasm. It's the ultimate free will paradox, wrapped in a blood-soaked vow. How does a human mind, capable of complex thought and planning, arrive at the conclusion that murder is not just an option, but the right option for them? It's a question that keeps ethicists up at night and leaves neuroscientists muttering about the limits of their fancy scanners. Because sometimes, the most terrifying thing isn't a broken brain, but a perfectly functional one that simply chooses evil. Number 3. The psychopath versus
the psychotic.
If you've ever confused a psychopath with a psychotic, don't worry, you're in good company. Hollywood certainly has. But for science, the distinction is crucial, and the baffling part is how both can lead to the same horrific outcomes, yet operate on fundamentally different internal logic. Imagine two different types of monsters under your bed. One is a perfectly rational, calculating monster who knows exactly what it's doing, feels no remorse, and is just really, really good at being evil.
That's your psychopath.
The other is a monster who genuinely believes the closet door is a portal to another dimension, and the voices in its head are telling it to redecorate with your internal organs. That's your psychotic. And science is still trying to figure out how both can end up eating your socks. Psychopathy is a personality disorder characterized by a chilling lack of empathy, manipulative charm, and a casual disregard for the rights and feelings of others. They know right from wrong, they just don't care. They're often highly functional, blending seamlessly into society, using their intelligence to exploit others. Psychosis, on the other hand, involves a break from reality, hallucinations, delusions, disorganized thinking. A psychotic killer might genuinely believe they're acting on divine command or that their victims are actually demons. The mystery isn't just in their existence, but in the fact that these two wildly different internal landscapes can both culminate in serial murder. How does a mind that is coldly rational and one that is utterly detached from reality both arrive at the same, gruesome conclusion? It's like trying to understand how both a finely tuned sports car and a runaway tractor can end up in the same ditch. The paths are different, the internal mechanics are worlds apart, but the final devastating impact is tragically similar. And that, my friends, is a paradox that keeps the shrinks scratching their heads and the rest of us checking under the bed twice. Number 2. The missing ingredient. We've talked about the trauma, the rejection, the broken brain connections, and the chilling lack of empathy. But here's the million-dollar question that keeps psychologists up at night, staring at their ceiling, wondering if they left the stove on. If all these factors are present, why doesn't everyone with a rough childhood, a dash of psychopathic traits, or a history of abuse become a serial killer? It's the ultimate scientific head-scratcher, the elusive missing ingredient that separates the tragically damaged from the truly monstrous. You see, the world is, unfortunately, full of people who've experienced unimaginable horrors in their formative years. Many have suffered profound abandonment, relentless abuse, and systemic neglect. And while these experiences often leave deep scars, leading to mental health struggles, addiction, or difficulty forming healthy relationships, they rarely lead to a life of serial murder.
So, what's the secret sauce?
What's the final terrifying piece of the puzzle that tips a person from being a victim of circumstance to becoming a perpetrator of unspeakable evil? Is it a specific genetic marker that activates under extreme stress? A subtle, yet critical, neurological difference that we haven't quite pinpointed yet? Is it a unique confluence of environmental triggers that creates a perfect, horrifying storm? Or is it something far more existential, A fundamental choice made at a crossroads of despair and opportunity? Science can identify risk factors, it can highlight correlations, but it still can't isolate that one definitive catalyst. It's like having all the ingredients for a cake, but sometimes it bakes into a delicious treat, and other times it spontaneously combusts into a sentient, murderous blob. We know the recipe for disaster, but we're still missing the exact step that turns a tragic life into a terrifying one. Number 1. The meticulous monster versus the impulsive killer. When you picture a serial killer, what comes to mind? Is it the hyper-organized, detail-oriented mastermind, meticulously planning every step, leaving no trace, like a macabre chess player? Or is it the chaotic, impulsive force of nature, driven by sudden urges, leaving a trail of carnage and confusion? The unsettling truth is, both exist, and science is still trying to reconcile how such wildly different operational styles can lead to the same horrific outcome. It's like trying to understand how both a Swiss watch and a sledgehammer can both be used to tell time, albeit with vastly different levels of precision and collateral damage. Some killers are the human equivalent of a finely tuned machine, every action calculated, every victim chosen with chilling deliberation. They stalk, they plan, they execute with a cold, detached efficiency that speaks of immense self-control and a perverse dedication to their craft. Then, you have the other end of the spectrum, the impulsive killer. These individuals are often driven by sudden, overwhelming urges, a volcanic eruption of violence that seems to come from nowhere. Their actions are less about planning and more about immediate gratification, a desperate attempt to quell an internal storm. They might choose victims of opportunity, their methods often messier, their patterns less discernible. So, what explains this profound divergence in methodology? Is it a difference in brain structure, with some possessing an overactive prefrontal cortex for planning, and others a hair-trigger amygdala for impulse? Is it a reflection of their underlying psychological makeup, with a meticulous monster perhaps a narcissist seeking ultimate control, and the impulsive killer a deeply insecure individual lashing out? Science can categorize these behaviors, but it struggles to explain the fundamental neurological and psychological pathways that lead to such contrasting approaches to murder. It's a stark reminder that the mind of a killer isn't a single monolithic entity, but a terrifyingly diverse landscape of unexplained darkness, where even the methods of destruction are a mystery in themselves. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.